Welcome back to another episode of Walford Weekly, where we discuss all things EastEnders. And I'm again once joined by Alex. Hello, Alex.
Hello. You don't have to say it with such feigned happiness. And I'm here with Alex again. If you don't want me to be here, just let me know. And
You can't go anywhere, that's the trouble, isn't it?
That's true. I could camp up in the back garden, maybe.
With the cat.
With the cat. Yeah, the cat would like that. Who's lost lots of weight. This has done him the world of good as Charlie.
Well, no, he's loving lockdown, isn't he?
Well, he's loving it for the wrong reasons, because there's more birds and animals about, like enjoying the human-free environment that they've now cultivated. Charlie the cat's now seen as an opportunity to hunt a lot more.
He is in the room, he won't go out, so there may be background noises at some point throughout this.
You may have noticed there's meows now on our videos a lot more often, and also our podcast. Last week there was an occasion where you could hear a cat scratching a door.
I tried to edit it out, but it can't always be done.
You can't edit out Charlie.
No.
He's fame hungry. He's got fan mail as well this week.
Has he?
Yep, someone sent a message to us to say for Charlie the cat. It wasn't even for us. It was a message directly for Charlie the cat.
Good.
So he's now got his own fan.
I'm glad about that.
Yeah, I am too. However, you cannot, this is a really tenuous link, you cannot vote for Charlie in our third annual Walford Weekly Awards. That's right, we're doing it for a third year.
Oh yeah, good. There's no soap awards this year, but we're still going.
Yeah, it's at the same time as we've done it every other year, and that is the weekend of what would have been the soap awards, so a special podcast episode at the end of the month. But if you want to vote, just go to bit.ly/WalfordVote20, bit.ly/WalfordVote20, and you can vote for all kinds of things like Best Bitch.
You.
Yeah. Best, sorry? Mr. Walford.
Me.
Miss Walford.
Me.
Yeah. Best ensemble piece. Best.
Me and Charlie.
Yeah. Best newbie.
Charlie.
He is. Best exit. The Julius Smith Award.
You.
Best exit. You just want me to exit. And there's lots and lots and lots more. All you have to do is go bit.ly/WalfordVote20 and you can vote on there. One vote per person. We've already exceeded the number of votes we got last year, which is fantastic.
I know. Like on the first day, we had more than we got last year in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. So the link is actually on all our social media as well, so you can find it on there. Details at the end of the show.
It shows we're growing, so that's always fun.
I'm always growing for you, Ben. And it's a great way of just letting us know what you think about how the soap is going so far by just getting involved and joining in. And as I say, there'll be a special episode, but we'll publicise that a bit nearer the time.
We should have had a vote on if people like the incidental music or not, shouldn't we?
I think I think we don't need to vote for that, but the general tone on Twitter this week.
Everywhere, everyone hates it, don't they?
I will discuss it with you when the time comes.
So we're discussing the episodes between the 4th and 5th of May, and we're starting off with the Whitney, Gray, Chantelle, Kheerat storyline. Because we're carrying on from last week basically, where they're still, Kheerat and Chantelle stuck in the office with no electricity. They've only got themselves to talk to.
Organising the office so there's nice feng shui.
Which the mum won't approve of.
No.
She'll rearrange it anyway. And then we've also got Whitney, who's allegedly kidnapped, but the oddest kidnapping in the world, because halfway through Whitney was like, I think I'm going to go now, is that okay? So yeah, we continue on from that, and Gray's obviously in a rage because he can't get hold of Chantelle.
Well, Chantelle's not helping him, and he
doesn't need Chantelle's help because he went there anyway. So.
No, he was just driving to Whitney's, but I suppose everything's beginning to tear him apart, isn't it? He's he's getting himself frustrated by no one seems to be paying him or taking what he's doing seriously.
And Whitney is.
Well, Whitney is, but she's in a quite a comical situation, as you say. She's trapped in a room which she can easily escape from and has every right to.
Yeah, she just picks up her coat and a bag, and she's like, "Right, I'm off now."
Yeah,
gives her a hug and a kiss on the cheek. Bye, Michaela.
But Michaela did ask her to stay, so because a few home truths came out, mainly by Whitney toward Michaela, that really it's not Whitney's fault, and finally Michaela's beginning to see the light and realise that it actually has been Tony and Leo, and she's blaming herself a little bit about it.
Well, it's the revelation that she's basically said that she kind of knew all along, but never reported it, and she walked in on Tony and the babysitter once, and she didn't think Leo would pick up on all of this.
The babysitter was 13, we should stress that. It wasn't just like a college student who was helping. No, this was an underage girl who Leo had shown attraction toward. And some around bus stops as well, he would hang around.
And you'd look at all the school children and all sorts, And Michaela's basically asking for forgiveness from Whitney, saying, please forgive me, I kind of feel just as guilty as you, really.
She feels guilty because she could have stopped it. The signs were there and she didn't, although and it wasn't the fact that she hadn't noticed them, is that she didn't do anything to carry out further with them. She knew that Tony was sexually harassing young girls, including Whitney, but kind of didn't put a stop to it. And then she knew that Leo was out for revenge against Whitney, thinking that Whitney was, the trouble and it wasn't Tony's fault at all, his father, and again didn't put a stop to it. So it kind of does explain retrospectively everything we've been complaining about up until this point, and that is that she got locked in a boot by Leo, and why is she still seeing that he is right? So she was almost blinded by her own guilt, that she thought that I've been wrong so far, but I must be right about this now.
She didn't want to admit the truth of her family, I guess. But it was interesting that she asked for forgiveness and Whitney wouldn't give it to her. She said, I can't forgive you.
She can't erase everything that's been done because of her. But Whitney was very kind about it, to be fair. It wasn't done viciously. She just said, and she almost kind of said that in time, this will, time is a good healer, and this is an instance where I will forgive you, or I will at least tolerate you.
Yeah, or you'll be able to move on with your life or carry on. But I did find it interesting, it was quite ominous the way they ended Michaela, because she said, it was something like along the lines of, I don't know if I'll be able to live with myself if you don't forgive me. And like Gray came in to rescue Whitney and they went, and Gray wanted to press charges against Michaela, but Whitney said, no, I don't want to do that.
Well, she
suffered enough. Yeah. And I'm wondering if, like, what would the repercussions be if Michaela now commits suicide? Like, would that not help Whitney's case, or would it undo anything?
I think Whitney's case, I don't think anything that
it's basically
Michaela
fine now,
do.
isn't it?
Well, yeah, anything Michaela does from this point onwards, I don't think will weaken Whitney's case. I think it's more that if Michaela had done something to herself, that she might bring more guilt onto Whitney's shoulders, and that's
sounds
the
about right for the writers.
Yeah, why not? I mean, there's another thing the writers seem to like doing is just destroying and killing one family in one fell swoop, like with Mel, Hunter, and Ray. So
makes sense.
Is this now going to happen with Leo, Tony, and Michaela? Yeah. Is this it? Is this the end of the King family?
I did think that when like that lingering shot on her alone in her bedsit, and I thought, I bet it gets reported like Michaela's killed herself, and then that means some sort of evidence won't, like, it'll create some sort of drama with Gray and something.
Well, will Whitney cry in Gray's shoulders? Because on Monday's episode, we began to see the beginnings of the relationship between Gray and Whitney being perhaps more than professional.
Yeah, we heard piano in the background. So wasn't Tommy playing, or Gene.
Tommy was busy, wasn't he?
It was actual background music that we heard playing piano, and Gray and Whitney seem to be coupling up or falling for her, but we said this months ago, we don't want this to happen.
I mean, the piano wasn't for her. The piano pieces were both used for Issac.
And Chantelle.
Oh yeah, and Chantelle when she was looking out the window. So it was more of a mote to the audience. I mean, are they doing it because they're less known characters perhaps, and that's why they wanted the audience to kind of be more attached with Isac's case anyway?
Oh, Isac's first piano piece was awful. When it was like just 5 seconds of random piano, then it stopped. It was like, what?
No, it wasn't. It stopped because the scene ended.
Yeah, but it was just stupid. It wasn't needed. It wasn't needed both times. And I thought, like, it was because you hear music, so you automatically think, oh, they've used music, this is going to be a big moment. I thought Gray was going to come in, he was going to hit Chantelle, and there'll be slow motion cameras and all these shots. But that didn't happen. He just ended up talking to Whitney about how amazing he is, that Whitney said, you're there for me, you saved me, even though he didn't.
But the next day we saw Chantelle, and you could see that she'd been beaten by Gray, and she'd lift up her shirt, and Gray made a bit of a sarcastic comment about, don't forget your phone when you go to work next time. And do you think that they took the abusive scenes out because of the environment that we're in at the moment, and perhaps the audience don't need to see too much
possibly
down TV? The BBC have got, maybe they feel like it's their remit to entertain, and not bring.
Possibly, I did think that because it has been like re-edited because people's characters are appearing in the credits where they don't appear in the episode. So I guess maybe they might have edited something out. But I mean, we have got Chantelle's side of the story to talk about as well, because she was still stuck in the call centre.
Well, she couldn't get out of the call centre because Jags had messed up the security system, and they have again, not really explained why, but they have a deadlock door, so no one can come into their call centre. Yeah, but security from what?
To lock Lola in there when they kidnap her.
What's the call centre for? No one really knows.
No.
And it's like, you know, if it is for their bug zapping business, why do they need heightened security for that? What are they expecting? Like an army of rats to come in and start abusing them in one way?
Well, they have dodgy deals, I think. They're a bit like the Mitchells, aren't they? They have a business, but there's also a business in the business, I think.
Yeah, but don't get Jags involved with it then, because Jags is clearly the loose cannon in the environment.
The mum will make him, won't he?
Well, he was
Give
doing
Jags
nothing,
a job, go on.
Yeah, but he was doing nothing, like, the whole time. Like, he wasn't on the other side of the door kind of saying, is this working? Was this happening? He didn't seem to be fixing the problem he had created.
Maybe Habiba interrupted and they went off to a dark alley together.
Well, the last we saw of Habiba and Jags was them looking at each other and kind of giving themselves the eye.
So maybe he got tied up with Habiba.
He got busy with Habiba, did he?
Doesn't matter, but we had some nice character moments, because the whole of Tuesday was loads of like 2 characters in a room scenes, which we enjoy, because they were more about the character. And we did learn a lot more about the first episode of the week, the one where it was just lots of 2 people in rooms. There was Issac and Sheree, there was Whitney and Michaela, there was Kheerat and Chantelle. And it was a really good episode. And Phil and Linda, yeah. So there's lots of 2-handers all going through. And we finally learned a bit more about Kheerat. He's not a playboy. He's quite loyal. He's been busy looking after his brothers, bringing them up as a dad.
Well, he's had to look after his family because his father got put in prison, so he's not had time to find romance or love. So though he puts over this persona of being a bit of a player, he's not actually a player at all. And he admitted this to Chantelle as well.
Just tall, dark and handsome.
Surprise. He's a very handsome guy, and I think...
I mean, that mood lighting was, quite something.
Well, the red light. Again, they had an emergency red light.
Yeah, but there was like fog in the background. It was all very sexy, wasn't it, in that room with him and Chantelle?
I think you're remembering the scene a bit different to what I remember it as. It was just the street lights outside coming in.
No, there was fog.
There was no fog. Where would the fog have come from?
It was like dust in there because it was a new office.
Oh, okay.
But
that's
it was
not
like
fog,
It was a fog machine.
Yeah, but no.
Go back and watch the scenes and you'll see at the window there's fog. Like, when Whitney was in prison or in the interview room with Kat.
It's dust, as you said.
Yeah,
You're saying
it was
dust.
that. It looked like fog machine.
It was giving the impression of dust.
But it was nice to know a bit more about Kheerat, wasn't it? And finding out a bit more about him.
I mean, you don't really learn a lot. You just learn that he's a family.
Yeah, but something is better than nothing.
Guy. Yeah, true. He's opening up a little bit. I mean, you learn a bit more also that he's much more forgiving than you first perceived him to be when he was with his mum on the Tuesday episode, and his mum had a go at Jean in the shop, and he actually said to Kush that he was sorry for what his mum had said. So he's a lot more softer character than I think we first thought he was when he started the whole kidnapping and trying to intimidate Ben and which is better because it rounds off his edges a bit better and it makes him a bit more rounder. So again, they're doing it with Kheerat and they're doing it with Vinny. So why are they not doing it with Jags? Why is Jags still this comedy guffaw character, this very flawed character who likes to eat too much? That's all we know about him. Oh, and now he's got a relationship with Habiba, another character who's 2-dimensional.
Yeah, you also know that Jags is being belittled by his family his whole life, so there's that sort of aspect to it.
Yeah, but then have him open up to Habiba about that rather than just trying to be this buffoon. He's just a buffoon character.
They could do, because Habiba had that bit with Honey where she said, I used to put on all this makeup I thought that's all that was there to the world, was to look good. So there's that side of Habiba where she's realised recently that it's not all about looks, so maybe there's that sort of thing that her and Jags can open up about. Not that I want to see it on screen.
Well, I know. I would like to see it on screen. I'd like to... The only reason that I have this affliction against Jags and Habiba is the fact that I don't know anything about them. So I feel like they're ripe for the plucking. They're there to be targeted. And if they started to open up and give us some more information about Jags and Habiba, make them, instead of this rumour storyline of the fact that Habiba's pregnant with Jags, which is just, it's as plain and boring as the 2 characters are, just give them, I would happily have them have a scene similar to what they had on the Monday episode, as you said, lots of 2-hander scenes where the 2 characters were just sat in a room talking to one another. Have that with Habiba and Jags, because all they've had is they had that one scene in the hallway at the Ahmed's house. Then they had that scene when they slept together. Then they had the scene when Jags got chucked out the door. Then they've had a couple of scenes when they've kind of given each other the look in the market, in the nightclub, and that's it. And now we're meant to ride the story about them that Habiba's pregnant with Jags' kid. And okay, perhaps there's going to be the undertones that they have different religions. Well, whoopee-doo.
Yeah, but you're forgetting Habiba's contract. She's only allowed 2 lines an episode.
Yes,
so that's the trouble.
That is true. But again,
they can only fit so much in.
The lines they give her are just really.
Can I take your order?
Yeah. Haha, boobs. You know, it's like, what's... Oh. Anyway, we're going off track here. I mean,
you are, yes.
Yes, Kheerat and Chantelle's story is developing, and we're learning stuff about Kheerat.
And she almost told Kheerat about her and Gray's relationship as well, but then the lights came on.
Yes, just in time for her to be like, oh, whoops, I think I've got somewhere to be, and runs off.
I would have preferred it if she did tell him, like, it's time now for it just to move it that one little step forward, the storyline. And that was so close to it, so that annoyed me. But I quite like Chantelle and Kheerat together. They work well together as actors. And,
so do I.
And they brought out a lot more with each other. So, yes, that's all good. Right, so we're going to move on now to Bobby Bill, because we saw the aftermath of Bobby's drug overdose.
And Ruby didn't want anyone to know, so she quickly hurried them into the cupboard, into her office. She was like, take them to the office. No one needs to know anymore. She's obviously similar to the Albert, got a drug problem now as well. Something Ian Beale wants to crack down on as well, apparently.
I know, he's using his influence to crack down on it.
He's very aware of the drug problem happening around Albert Square, Walford, and he wants a zero tolerance.
Just like his mum, Kath.
Well,
who was a drug pusher at one point.
Well, she was a drug pusher and also a hoarder of drugs, because she used to keep drugs in her safe at the Albert. Not money, because she didn't make any, just drugs.
There was the whole thing with Bobby, because like Peter and Bobby were like, we need to keep this secret, but they were saying it in front of Ian in the living room, which was a bit weird. They want to keep this big thing secret, but they're talking in front of him. And they find out that it was Dotty that sold the drugs, because Bobby ends up being upset that Dotty didn't accept his date.
Well, Bobby's embarrassed, isn't he? So Dotty showed him a little bit of attention, and we saw this months ago when Bobby came back to the square with Tiff, where no one was kind of giving him the time of day. Tiff did start showing him a little bit of attention, and we did think then that perhaps he was going to make a beeline toward Tiff, but he's basically moved his affections onto Dotty, who also showed him some attention too. And
attention, I did think Bobby was a bit silly. Like, Dotty turned him down and he got all upset. It's like, well, that happens, Bobby. Like, you don't have to... Yeah. And then started blaming her and stuff. It's like,
but
bit
Bobby,
unfair.
Bobby had his, let's call them informative years in prison, didn't he? So his time growing up, becoming mature and, puberty and all that fun that men and women have to go through to grow up kind of happened when he was in prison. So he's not really had an opportunity to kind of learn how to be with a girl, or kind of the way of courting, if we're going to make it very English, the way how to court a woman.
And I guess he was never good with rejection or arguments, because obviously he killed his sister.
Well, and he whacked his
Jane,
stepmom, his Jane. He's whacked his stepmum with a hockey stick. So yes, that's good, to be fair, by the writers, that they've remembered that Bobby isn't great by being told no, but he's obviously able to channel his anger a little bit better now, and he's able to speak to his family, which is also great to see. He's actually able to open up to his dad, Ian, and he's got that trust to Ian. And
Peter's really supportive as well, which was surprised me. I didn't expect him to be so supportive so quickly, but he's acting his big brother role quite well.
But Peter did say that he wasn't sure when he came back whether he was going to forgive Bobby. He said that on the outset, but after Jay and his hiccup fit. But he realised that his irresponsibility, that he needed to step up and look after his brother as well. So yeah, it's nice that Peter's doing that, and he does step up to him by then going to see Dotty and telling her that everything she says is lying. He doesn't believe her anymore. The fact that she let his brother take the brunt of the blame in the nightclub that night when he was still recovering from passing out from taking the laughing gas.
Yeah, which were Dotty's drugs. Like, she said, "Oh, I didn't sell them to him," but
no, but she was indirectly the problem.
Yeah, to say that to Ian, Dotty.
Well, which is our point from the beginning
Poor
of this,
Dennis.
wasn't it? For weeks we've been saying, why does Dotty feel like she can get on her high horse when really what she's doing is no different? She has almost killed someone now by selling these drugs. Is she going to now pull back and stop selling laughing gas as a little bit of extra profit?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
it's no different to what happened with Dennis and Ian.
No different whatsoever. Ian obviously didn't sell Denny drugs. But...
No, but Ian punished Denny thinking the boat would arrive safely. It didn't, because of Phil. Phil is the laughing drug, Dennis is Bobby, and Dotty is Ian.
Okay.
In that situation. She needs to look at it that way, doesn't she?
Okay.
And open her eyes.
So Dotty really has no right to kind of take this holier-than-thou view over Ian, when really she's not doing anything that is any better. And I think she's kind of learnt that now. But then there was that really annoying scene where at the end, where Ian had got a bench, Denny's bench.
Another bench.
A metal bench. So it should stand the test of time.
It's horrible colours. It's colours of the
West
football
Ham
team, yeah. Seeing that in the square is going to be grotty.
Mick will be pleased. Yeah, but they'll age it. As time goes on, it'll be aged.
Yeah, it takes ages. The chalk from all the Shaquille messages are still on Arthur's bench, and that was on chalk.
I don't think they used chalk, did they?
It looked like chalk.
I think they used permanent pens.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Still.
To vandalise Arthur's bench, I still won't forgive them. I know Shaquille deserved a memorial, but get him his own bench. Denny's got a bench
tree.
now.
And people normally get a tree planted for them, don't they?
Yeah, and then the body's underneath and the dog digs it up and then it gets killed. Oh, yeah. But then they did the bench and Kathy made a very passionate speech about how great her son is. Vinny then said, he shouldn't be able to get away with this. And Dotty seemed to distance herself a bit from it now. She kind of realised, maybe I am going to break up the family by doing this and I don't really want to hurt Bobby. And she does have feelings for Peter. So, is it her emotions that are going to stop her eventually from...
I don't think so.
I
think she was still fully on board with the plan. She's waiting for Sharon to get back from her holiday. We also had the Lola and Jay storyline. Going through. Yeah, God, because it's just so like Peter and Jay are suddenly best friends like overnight because of the whole sleeping together thing with Lola and Peter, and it's just so like it's basically just written just for this stupid storyline which no one cares about. This weird love triangle where Peter like almost tells Jay because they're best mates now. And also, did you notice that Lola was in the nightclub wearing a fleece jacket?
Right, is that a problem?
Well, why was she wearing a fleece jacket in the nightclub?
Maybe she was cold.
What, in Ruby's?
Well, Ruby's isn't exactly the most hottest place.
It's very odd.
It doesn't look very sweaty there.
Lola normally walks around in winter with a highlighter yellow.
No, that's true.
Tank top on.
Yeah.
Then in the nightclub, she's wearing coats and jackets.
Maybe she's the opposite of everyone on the square. She gets cold in the summer and hot in the winter. You never know.
But Jay's offering Peter a job as well.
Yeah. I mean. So if you're best friends with Jay, do you basically automatically get a job offer working at the funeral parlour?
Yeah, with no training.
Is that basically how it works now? So he got friendly with Callum, gave him a job in the funeral parlour, got friendly with Stuart, gave him a job in the funeral parlour. Is that basically how you apply for it? Is that the way the application process works in Jay's world? It's like, you're a mate, I'll give you a job.
And it's such a rubbish job for a Bill, like Peter Bill, to do undertaking. It's like, no.
I know, it doesn't suit it, doesn't it?
Like, at least have him work on the fruit and vegetable with Martin. We haven't seen Martin.
I don't think there's enough trade on the fruit and vegetable.
Well, the Undertakers has got a lot of staff, haven't they? But I don't know. It's just he came into this as a recast character. In the first episode he was in, they mentioned that he's a personal trainer,
and he's been doing personal training courses as well, with Habiba as one of them.
Yeah, so there's plenty of people on the square who would do personal training with him if they wanted that storyline.
Not necessarily even on the square. Well, for argument's
Kush
sake,
would love it.
Who was it that who had a personal trainer to get more information? It was Mel. Mel used a personal trainer, didn't she?
Oh yeah, for one of Ray's wives.
To find out about Ray's wives. So, there is a market there. Okay, Mel's dead, but there is obviously other young...
Sharon, people. She'd love it.
Sharon, she's bought some new trainers, some new kicks. She'll be there. She'll be right there. She needs to know, And Callum, don't forget, he needs a bit of PT for his football.
His police
training. He might have passed the interview somehow, but he still needs to do the physical.
That's right.
Plenty of people who need that job.
Yeah, so it's a bit silly they've given him that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it makes...
Deadwood.
Yeah.
Is that what the writers are telling her?
Yeah. I mean, he had a perfectly fine job. There was no real need to kind of... It's just to mix him up, isn't it? Again, this seems to be the problem at the moment. It seems to be story for plot purposes. So now they've made Jay and Peter best friends and working together, so that there's always that tension that Lola's worrying that they're gonna find out that she slept with Peter.
I saw someone online write something saying that all the storylines now, they have their Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, but there's never a build-up to the act and there's never an aftermath. It's like one act 3 ends like that. It ends, and then it's move on to the next story.
It's
I
true.
thought that's really the way that person, I can't remember what it was, but the way that person wrote that, it was like, oh yeah, that is exactly what it is.
It's a real good point. And it kind of also reflects a little bit on the point we both made a week or so ago, that there doesn't seem to be as much interaction outside of their story anymore either. Do you know what I mean? It's like when we both praised so much that when Kate Oates was introduced as the executive producer, that there was a lot more characters mingling with one another, and that seems to have been pitted out, and they haven't gone to the block storytelling at all, so there's nothing to panic about that just yet. But it seems to be that that's the direction they're heading back toward, and it will be a real shame if that is what happens.
And also the fact that they keep planning, like we know that Tisha Dean has time off, we know that Steve McFadden has certain time off, they know that Rudolph, who plays Patrick, has certain time off. And the way they've placed these storylines, like Dennis dying over a period where Steve McFadden's not there to film, and then they've done the Issac reveal, and then the week before Rudolph is off on holiday for 3 months. It's like, why? They know they're on holiday at these times every year, every single year, yet they've given these big storylines to the characters a week before they're off on holiday.
Pull them away from having a big story until their return, and then bring a big story onto them. I mean, also, in a funny way, okay, maybe they're using Phil and Sharon because they're kind of the stock characters, the people that like to see and want to see stories about.
Use them in the autumn or the summer, not Christmas.
Yeah, use them in the time when they can be used
when they're there.
To their max potential, and actually then give the kind of younger characters. I mean, a soap is only as young as the blood that you put into it, and they need to start really pushing these younger characters and families as like to be the new next generation of characters that you will want to see in 10 years' time.
Yeah, because there isn't anyone. Like, I know there's loads of new young characters, and they are, to be fair, they're like Dottie's good, Bobby's good, Lola not so much. But like there is a good young group of characters, but there's like the ones that are younger, where on other soaps, when I've been watching Corrie recently or Emmerdale or whatever, like lots of the children actually feel like like they have their own personalities. And like they're about 10, 11. But on EastEnders, there's not. You're either a baby and then you're a character once you're 17. Like that whole in between is nothing.
Yeah, the school age kids, they don't seem to have anything. Again, nothing to develop with. I mean, is it Steve and Tracy? We're talking about Coronation Street now. Steve and Tracy's daughter. I don't know what her name is, but it doesn't matter. She and her friends and group have had 2-3 stories in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
There was the pregnancy storyline, and there's now online bullying storyline, I believe, happening with them. Skin bleaching storyline. And these are all stories that are aimed toward a young audience, so they can, get the Netflix generation, that thing, that buzzword, that buzz term but it's a buzz term that both Kate Oates and... Yeah, but both Kate Oates and John Sen have both said that they want EastEnders to try to evolve to become.
But their version of that is play background music.
Exactly that. Yeah, but that's
not
what I'm saying.
Engaging storylines,
which Coronation Street has. They're having engaging storylines with a young cast playing stories that a young audience can reflect on and get absorbed with. Of course, they have their big storylines as well. They have the domestic violence storyline themselves in Coronation Street at the moment, arguably being portrayed better than what EastEnders is doing. I didn't like it that much, but you have praised it quite a lot.
We've not seen all of it.
No, but the scene I've seen, I thought it was almost like watching what you don't like about EastEnders at the moment, and that's they've kind of had red lights on his face to show he is evil.
Yeah, but they've used that once in like 2 years, not every other week.
We don't know because we've not been watching Coronation Street up until that point. Have you?
But this isn't a Coronation Street
It's
podcast.
not, but what my point is that like they're relying so heavily on your point. They're relying so heavily on these older characters that have now got these nice little cushy contracts where they can just float off for a month and come back and it's fine. And when they should be investing their time and their efforts on perhaps younger audience and characters, and they were getting there with Habiba, with Ikra, with the Panasas, and they, this new blood that was flooding into the show and just going round in circles again. What have they done with them? What have they actually done with them? They're only now doing something with Kheerat.
It's because they're new families and new characters. Like back in the classic days, you've got Janine as a child, but she has you know that Janine is this horrible child.
Yeah, because they've given her stories, functional stories with Pat and Frank.
It's from families that you know about. Whereas now they've killed everyone's sons and daughters. So now these characters coming into it who are younger, we don't care about because we don't know them, and they don't ever explain to us why we should care about Issac or why we should care about Habiba or Dotty. Like, we don't know these people.
True,
that's the trouble.
You're right, but then as an example, later in the classic episodes, watch them on Drama Channel, they're into 1993, they're actually about to introduce the Jackson family. That was a whole new family, and they introduced them with a bang. Like, there was a huge each one of them had a big story. Carol had a big story with a mixed race relationship. Bianca had a big story. Sonia had a big story. It's her trumpet. But they all had. So they introduced this new family, and they instantly had a
point.
They had a point to be there. Exactly that. And they've not done that with the Palliser brothers, with Habiba, with Ikra. They're only now having a point to be there. And I mean, I'm all for one to being introduced to a family slowly and getting to know them, but there's slow and then there's slower than a snail pace.
But it's the same as Sheree and Issac, really. Like, they've been on the show 8 months. What do you really know about Sheree as a person?
Yeah.
I know she's fiery and she's a great actress, but that's all I know. So it's like asking us to care that this is Patrick's son and it's a big revelation.
But you're meant to care because Patrick is a stock character.
Yeah, but he's only plopped on it every one episode every 3 months. Patrick and Sheree have only appeared in 30 episodes.
Well, this year.
In 2020,
Yeah, no, I know. And they've been given this big revelation storyline. Again, a big revelation storyline where it doesn't seem... There was no real payoff to it. There was no build-up to it.
They're off on holiday. Because let's talk about Patrick and Issac and Sheree now.
So you've got this story where Issac has now found out that Patrick is his father. Sheree has admitted it eventually after still claiming that she knows nothing about it and that, you know, what is this thing you call sex?
She carried on like lying and I was like, oh, come on, Sheree. Like, he knows. He's asked you outright. He does know. You might as well just admit it now.
But again, all the story, all these things that Issac claims to be little hints that Patrick seems to be dropping... happened off camera.
Yeah, I know. He's like, all those times we've gone out and had good time. It's like, I remember you going to the Prince Albert once where you were horrible to him and you played Boggle. last episode.
With the name Sun on it.
It's like, so you haven't, we've not seen any of this bond building or anything.
No. And if there was some kind of build up to this point, perhaps we wouldn't need a music cue to help us emote a feeling toward it. It's almost like the producer or the director knows that, oh, this story, no one really gives a damn about it. Oh, chuck in some music, that might help people raise their spirits and lift it to a higher level of the story.
I think all that did is make people laugh at it, unfortunately.
I mean,
Lots of people said they were watching it with their family and their family laughed when the music started.
Oh, really?
So that's not what we are aiming for here. But, we had that whole revelation about Patrick being the dad and Issac, well, he'll come to terms with it, and then they went off on holiday.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, obviously, because of the situation now, Patrick's not going to be back on screen for even longer than any other character because he's in the elderly category, like Big Mo. They're going to be off our screens longer, I think, than regular characters. So I don't know what they're going to do with this Issac storyline now. He's just going to be hanging around the square for, 6 months? It's going to be, I guess.
They've attached Denise to it. And I think that was a shrewd move. But the thing is, again, it feels as though it's kind of just been wrapped up because Issac was meant to help Tommy with his tutorage. He was so upset by finding out that his father, that he's known, or the man he thought was his father wasn't, and now it's Patrick, and so drowned his sorrows a little bit, was found in the pub by Denise. And Denise was a bit like, no, step up your game. You can be better than this whole situation. Why don't you show that your kids that you teach at school that you are a better man than perhaps Patrick should have been to you? And then
also,
that was it.
It doesn't change, like, the man that he thought was his dad. It doesn't really change anything. Like, he still brought him up. He still loved.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Which is kind of
he died and Issac was grieving. It's like, well, none of that's really changed.
It's not erased the memory of him.
No. So it's a bit like, okay, like, why is that? I know it's a big issue knowing that he's not really your dad, but it doesn't taint your memory of... I can't remember the dad's name. It doesn't taint Isaac's memory of who he thought his dad was. It just means he now has a chance to have a relationship with Patrick, who's willing to have a relationship with him.
And wants to open up to him.
And it's not like Patrick abandoned them because he didn't know about Issac. So, like...
Well, exactly. Patrick only found out himself, a month ago? And it's just...
So it's really the reasoning behind why Sheree
wanted to keep it so quiet.
To keep this weird big secret. Because originally, I don't know if this was always the plan, but she was kind of, is she evil at the beginning, wasn't she? And there was all those talks of dead ex-husbands with her mum and
there was
inheritance and stuff. And then it was a secret son.
And when also she was trying to throw. It seemed as though she was trying to throw Denise out the house. And and there was the hint, wasn't there, where she was kind of like saying, "Oh, you know, you're marrying into money, or you've married into money with Patrick." Yeah. Again, what money? Yeah, I know, really, money.
On a failing salon.
He sold a few records and he owned some property in Albert Square. And that's, I mean, that's probably worth quite a lot of money, the property in Square. But still, I mean, Denise rightly said that, you know, you need to be this model now, this role model that perhaps you never felt like you had. But as you just mentioned, that seems really unfair to the man who did bring him up all this time, who he considered to be his father.
I thought he brought him up really well because Issac loved and doted on him. That was Sheree's argument for not telling him the truth. So it's all a bit odd. But we're not going to see any more of this for months now. So it's just all very bizarh.
No, I suppose it's just going to
Unless they do a Skype call with Patrick from Trinidad.
Or no, from his house because he's himself
with a green screen.
Isolation. Yeah. It's just it feels like an opportunity again, just thrown away. It just doesn't. There was no build up to it. I mean, there could have been a real nice... I understand that it's not on the level of Kat and Zoe.
There's no reason it could have been. That was a 1.5-year storyline.
It could have been, couldn't it?
Yeah, Sheree, Issac... Kat and Zoe were new characters at the time. It's just that we haven't seen Sheree, Issac or Patrick in... Apart from huge plot point scenes, we haven't seen anything in between.
I think in a way it's a shame that they had killed off Isaac's kind of at-home father as well, not his, but obviously Patrick's still alive, and that Sheree had just divorced and then remarried Patrick, because they could have maybe introduced him into the mix too, and had Patrick knowing this whole time that he is the father, while he watches his son doting on who Issac believed was his father.
Yeah, and that guy's really nice, so Patrick doesn't want to ruin his memory. Yeah,
and then perhaps
another layer to it,
and perhaps his adoptive father then starts to show a few cracks in, you know, his relationship, and this could be then Patrick's calling card to kind of like maybe wanting to step in and seeing that perhaps he's not so good for Issac after all. I mean, it cracked me up when Patrick was in the pub while Issac was finding out from Sheree Patrick was his father, and that Patrick basically having known this boy for what, a month, 2 months, not very long.
December,
and not really had that many interactions that we've seen, talking about how he sees himself in Issac and he's a chip off his own block, and like, you know, he's a bit feisty and he likes a joke and he likes to have a drink, you know, just like me. And it was like, oh, come on now, you're really forcing the issue on us here. Just stop this. We get it. You're the father now. Well done. Let's just see how the roll of the dice happens.
Well, the secret's out now, so we can only see, I guess now we're going to see Issac as his own character for a while, so him and Kush could be best friends. Who knows?
I'd like to see Issac on his own now, to be honest with you. I think now that
I don't want him to be evil either.
I don't think he will be.
I hope not, but he's a professional man, so
yeah, that's true.
The odds are against him. So we're going to go on to our game now before we talk about the rest of the week, and we're going to dip into a fruit bowl. So we're here to play Pauline's Fruit Bowl, which is a long-running game where I filled Pauline's Fruit Bowl up with a lot of categories, and Alex has to pick one at random and say as many answers to that category as he can in 30 seconds. And then in a minute, I will ask him a question, and however many correct answers he got from his category, he then uses as lifelines to answer my second question.
Is that convoluted and explained well enough for everyone?
I think so.
Yes, good.
Each correct question is basically a life, and then you have your lives to answer the second harder question.
You missed a trick really with this fruit bowl, because I kind of also, if people could see it, it's just like a lot of paper in a fruit bowl. You should put actually the paper in a piece of fruit.
It'll go off.
And then I'd have a nice something to munch on I'm thinking.
Can't waste food nowadays.
No, that's true.
Not allowed. Right, so are you ready to pick a category?
Yeah, here we go. Just mixing it all up. And I pick you. Ooh, Slaters. How interesting.
Very lot of them. Right. So 3, 2, 1. You have 30 seconds. So as many Slaters as possible. Go.
There's Tommy.
Yes.
There's
strange first one.
There's Kat. There's Mo.
Yeah.
There's Little Mo.
Is Mo a Slater? I don't know.
Oh, she's not. Sorry.
Right,
okay, Little Mo.
Yeah.
Charlie.
Yes.
Lynn.
Well, Lynn's not either. Well, I guess she was now. Yeah, she is now.
She was born a Slater.
Yeah.
There's Bert and Ernie. Oh no, they're Moon.
Time's up. You've really failed at this.
I got 5.
Yeah, you could have had about 50. Hayley, Bev.
Oh, Hayley.
Stacey.
Cherry.
Sean.
Sean Slater.
Kyle
Jean
Slater. Kyle's 2 sisters. Don't know their names. Lots of them. Belinda.
Oh, I love Belinda. She went off to Italy.
Viv. Never on screen, but she died.
Yes.
So yeah, but that's fine. You got 5.
5?
Which isn't very good for Slaters. You could have got a lot there. There's about 100 kids. Arthur, Lily, Hope. Oh, they're Fowlers though, aren't they?
They're Fowlers.
Oh, yeah.
I'm wondering if actually, I shouldn't say this to you, but I'm wondering if Tommy is a Slater. Tommy might be a Moon.
Oh yeah, he is.
Oh, so I've only got 4.
Oh, dear.
Shot myself in the foot there.
Right. Are you ready for your question to answer in 4?
Oh, you're laughing, so this is going to be tough. Yeah,
no,
go on.
It might not be. It is how many times did a character appear in EastEnders? And in 1993 classic, we've very recently seen the last episode of our beloved Christine Hewitt.
Oh, I love her.
I love her too.
Her gin and tonic and her spitting into her makeup bowl.
Her soups, her suits.
Her suits.
Oh, yeah.
She took a French cookery course so she could work for Kathy.
Her blow dries, her date with Pete. It was all just amazing. So I want to ask you, how many episodes did our lovely Christine Hewitt appear in on her time on the show?
Okay, no, this is doable. So she left in 93 in a real kind of like not. I expected more for her last episode rather than getting
Mark
shouted at by
her
Mark.
throughout the Vic.
She had an affair with Arthur for about 6 months, and before that she knew him probably for another 6 months. She was only in it for about a year.
I don't know.
Little shrug of the shoulders. I see.
I'm not giving you any hints.
So I'm going to say, as my starting bet, 100.
Lower. Once you get to 2 more guesses, I'll tell you who's had appeared in more than her and below her.
Okay.
That'd be a bit of fun.
Oh, that's nice. 80.
Higher.
Ooh, okay. So I'm on my last 2 guesses now.
Okay, well, person who's appeared more than her, the next character is Bailey Baker.
Oh, okay. She's been in it longer, though. She's been in, 2 years now?
Yeah, but I'm talking about appearances.
Yeah, but if you've been in a soap for longer, you should be in it. More appearances, I would have thought. Who's been in less, though? Who's been in less?
Marcus Christie. And he was in it for years and years and years.
He was, but not often. He was only in it, off now and then. Oh, that doesn't really help.
It's interesting, though.
But thank you for the clues. Higher than 80. I'm gonna guess 95.
Lower.
This is my last guess. 87.
Lower. You were very close with 80. She appeared in 81 episodes.
Oh, goodness.
So there you go.
81.
You didn't win. Yep.
That's quite a few, considering she was only in it for a year.
Well, she took over Pauline's role, didn't she, for months when she was off screen.
Oh, yeah, when she went to New Zealand.
House.
Yeah.
She lived in the house and moved in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, our lovely Christine Hewitt.
I loved Christine. The only thing I didn't like that they did with Christine is they slowly made her a little bit...
erratic.
Yeah, and bunny boiler-ish. And I think that kind of ruined Christine near the end. And I also feel like it wasn't entirely Christine's fault. I blame Arthur.
Yeah, same. What they should do is get her back to be friends with Kathy.
Yeah.
She needs a friend, Kath. And her and Miss Hewitt got on.
Yeah, but how old would Miss Hewitt be now? She'd be 95, 100.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. She can be friends with Big Mo.
Wheel her down the bridge street.
Right, so there you go. That was another incorrect answer on Pauline's Fruit Bowl. Right, so we had a little moment between Phil and Linda this week.
It was a nice moment as well.
It was very nice. Nice character-driven moments for Phil.
Yeah, nice to see 2 good actors. Not to say people aren't good actors.
Jags.
But it's nice to see them kind of have a scene together and a calm, not shouting, not having a go at one another, development of a story. Finally, Linda's story is actually taking the direct route that it should have taken a month ago at least.
Not shooting Keanu in the arm.
Yeah. Having her erratically walking around Christmas Day, just silly stuff like that. Just sensationalist stuff. Didn't need it for Linda's story. Linda's story needed to be what's happening right now. And that's a real heartfelt kind of kitchen sink kind of drama.
And it was by the kitchen sink.
It really was, with her rubber gloves, opening bottles of whiskey and basically trying to pour it down Phil's neck.
Testing Phil a bit. And she went to her meeting and she was able to speak and Phil was watching on.
I thought that was a really sweet moment. So before that, Linda said that she didn't think that... I think she felt a bit upset that Phil had insinuated that she couldn't basically stay at the pub and she wasn't ready to do the meetings. And so as almost a punishment toward Phil, she then opened a bottle of alcohol in front of him and said, "Oh, I bet this is tempting. I bet you really would like a few, little drops of this.
That's what you're going to be around if you own the Vic and stuff."
Yeah. And,
which is a good point.
It was a very good point, but Phil didn't rise to her bait, and eventually they kind of found a common ground, and Linda asked him to be her sponsor, and we didn't really find out then whether he would or not. And so then when you saw her at the AA meeting, or the dependency meeting, she kept looking at the door to see if Phil would walk in, and I thought that was a really nice, sweet moment, that they had this kind of bond and this moment together, that now Linda was quite dependent on the way that what Phil thought, and what Phil, at first she didn't care what Phil thought of her, and now she did care what Phil thought of her and wanted his strength to help her carry forward. The strength that Shirley had alluded to a week or so ago, that he has himself been able to topple his dependency problems.
I wonder what Shirley will make of Linda and Phil being friends, stepping on Shirley's shoes.
Yeah.
She won't like that, will she? But I do think they're still driving it home to us that Phil is buying the Vic, and Linda said to him, "Oh yeah, you can buy it." Like, she needs permission for some reason. But the last we saw of Sharon, she said to him, "Don't buy it for me."
Yeah.
So I don't know why Phil's still got this in his head that it's going to make him and Sharon this perfect couple again.
And he does still think that's what's going to happen, doesn't he?
Which is a bit odd.
When Linda brought it up, she said, "You're only doing it for Sharon." Phil didn't say no or yes to it, but you kind of got the impression that is the reason why he's doing
definitely.
it. Yeah.
So it's a bit odd that Phil's really doing this. I'm still expecting someone to come in suddenly and surprise us.
Danny Hardcastle.
Oh, God.
That's how they're going to introduce him as the main character.
Could you imagine?
He is going to become the new Vic owner.
Ugh.
You mark my words, Danny Hardcastle. I've gone from one nomination to the next. I admit that wholeheartedly. Chrissy Watts is still my ideal pick.
Well, mine's Christine Hewitt.
She can open a little French bistro there, couldn't she?
Yeah, she can rename it Arthur's.
No, she won't. She'd call it Hewitt's after her bus empire.
It is typical. Like, we've just had these really good character-driven scenes with Phil, and then next week we're then straight back into the same old rubbish. It's like, why can't this Phil stay around a bit longer? Because it's so much better.
I know we keep going back to classic EastEnders because it's just so damn good at the moment, but
it is.
Seeing Phil how he was in the 90s, like, he could push his weight around if he wanted to.
But he was understanding, he was caring.
He could listen to people's problems. He didn't go headstrong into anything, but he
helped people.
And he helped people. He helped his community as well. He would help Kathy if he had problems in the square.
And Michelle. Even though he doesn't like her particularly.
Yeah, but it was there. Grant was always the vicious one, the one who kind of didn't think, just went in with his, with his fists. And that's the Phil I would like to see back, because having seen him this week with Linda in those scenes, even with that moment with Jean this week, when Jean was kind of throwing shade at him, and he kind of pulled it in, and he didn't, he understood. There was that moment when Jean made the kind of her losing her family, and I think it kind of struck a chord to Phil losing Dennis again. And you saw that through, his emotion and through his expression at Jean. And instead of just being like, "Tell her to get away," he just kind of said, "Just tell her to go,"
it's not
Kush.
in the mood.
Yeah, they're not in the mood.
The old Phil's still there, though, because Phil was recycling. So there is still that softer side to him.
He knows a green planet.
He recycles. Because Bailey had to go at him once, probably. He's remembered.
Yep, he listens to the children. They are the future.
I found that interesting when Jean had a go at him. She mentioned Stacey being the one that hit him.
Yeah,
and he thinks it's Kat, doesn't he?
No, he knows it's Stacey now.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, that all got revealed, remember? That's why he wanted the money.
I thought he looked at her a bit like, "What are you saying?"
No,
when she said that.
In fact, we've chatted about this before, because we said that Stacey can come back without any repercussions now, easily, because everyone knows that it was her who did it. Yeah, no, I'm fairly certain he knows now.
With the Jean storyline that we've got, we had like moments where because Jean called Whitney Stacey, and she keeps going on about she's phoning the police about Whitney being missing, even though Whitney's not missing. And she's obviously not taking her medication. But there was a strange thing when she said to Kush, "Oh, I know that me and Stacey, we've fallen out. That's why we're not talking. That's why she's not here." And it's like, is this something that happened off screen? That they're not making excuses why Stacey's not here now?
I wondered that too. However, someone on our Twitter actually got in touch with us, because we kind of posed that question out on our Twitter feed. And they made a good theory, which is probably right, actually, that perhaps Jean, because because she mistook Whitney as Stacey, then had that falling out with Whitney because Whitney ran away. And the first scene on Tuesday was, I don't know why, she won't admit that she ran away. So she's kind of, so she thinks that Stacey and Whitney are maybe one of the same. And so that falling out was actually with Whitney, but she believes it was with Stacey. So actually, very subtle and very well done.
If that is the case.
If that is the case. If it's just
not, then it was awful.
If it's just a lucky coincidence, then still take it, embrace it, make it your own, writers. Say that.
Yeah, because obviously Kush is handling the whole Slater clan by himself. Bless him.
God, Kush is like, if it hadn't been for them adding Kush and Kat as a relationship, the Slaters I would have no time for. Kush has just made that family interesting again, and it's perfect. And the relationship,
and he works really well with all of them as well.
Yeah, really does. His relationship with all of them is perfect. Him with Jean is great, watching scenes with them together. Him with Tommy is good too. I mean, Tommy is a good little actor, actually. Us talking earlier on the show about how young actors should be introduced and more stories should be given. I mean, this Tommy story, I would happily ride that train. And I would love to know more about Tommy and his state at school and his dyslexia and his problems, and watching that story progress and learning more about it.
I was a bit upset with how they portrayed Mo when Kush was trying to tell.
I loved that. I must say,
he was trying to tell her that Jean wasn't up for it. And I know Mo's always been a comedy character, but she has had layers before. But the way she kind of just didn't seem to care when Kush was saying it about Jean, I was a bit like, I would have liked something a bit more less cartoony in that moment, because she does have it in her, Big Mo, to have a half sensible scene.
Well, she does get very upset normally when it's family related, but I don't suppose she sees Jean as direct family. So I mean, they're both, if you think about it, outsiders that have come into the Slater family. They both married into it.
Yeah.
So I suppose they're kind of that kind of relationship is a bit strained between them. But yeah, I agree with you. But I have to honestly say I enjoyed the scenes when Kush was talking to Mo and he was desperately trying to get her on board to help out, and Mo didn't want anything to do with it.
She just wanted the food that he was cooking.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Because he said to Shirley that he's a bit worried about Jean, and she was like, oh no.
Shirley's the one that I was most upset with her dismissiveness
that was strange
of it.
as well.
Like, why was she so dismissive, considering that she was meant to be championing Jean this whole time? She was the one that really confused me.
And I liked when because obviously we don't like when Jean's off her meds, but when she, like, the way she stands up to Sookie, I really enjoy when she's bitter and angry towards her and not properly Jean. I think that actually is quite well. And like Sookie hates it that someone's talking to her like this.
Oh yeah, Sookie will not be talked down to. She is this queen. She's on the throne. Oh no, not at all.
So I did find that funny, the way she talked to her. But she then said, "Oh well, where are your kids?" Yeah. And it's like,
she had to stick that knife in, didn't she?
So don't bring up the Stacey storyline, Sookie. No one understands where she is.
I also like that when Jean was having a go at Phil, and as you said, she was like throwing the recycling back over the wall to Phil's house, that when she would throw a piece of cardboard, you'd hear a bottle breaking.
Yeah, that was odd. The
sound effect department were having a whale of a time. Like, just doing all kinds of sounds. A duck quacking and all kinds of stuff.
It was really silly. It was like a cardboard and like a milk carton.
Yeah, and you just
made
had
a crash.
Yeah.
Unless all of Sharon's bottles of wine are lined up in the back and they got smashed when a milk carton hit them, maybe.
I don't think Sharon started drinking when she left, had she? She was still on the lemonade and orange juice. She's a new woman.
God knows then.
She'll come back, though, with a bottle under her arm.
But Kush does ask her outright, and Jean says, no, I am. Of course I'm taking my meds. Which is obviously a lie because he finds all her prescriptions and stuff.
But then he says to her, I think you need to start taking the drugs. And she says, it's too late for that now. And so he's now having to come up with a plan of almost forcing her to take the drugs.
He is. And I am crushing them
in her soup.
Yes. Bless her.
But it's the fact that when you saw him do it and he quickly popped it in the soup, stirred it around, gave it to her on the table, stirred it around, served it to her on the table, he seemed visibly upset that he had to fool Jean into taking her drugs. And again, that really made me feel for Kush and the situation that he's landed himself into. Like, he only had this relationship with Kat, and now he's having to look after Tommy and get him homeschooled and educated by Issac. He's fighting tooth and nail for Jean, having to apologise for her around the square.
Kat's God knows where. They've not really mentioned that still. Just Kat's had to go.
So are these stories that were meant to be for Kat and Kush, and now it's been landed on the shoulders of just Kush?
Not good though, because Darude is.
I was going to say,
he needs some good material.
Very capable shoulders, very hard, sexy shoulders as well. Let's be honest. And I think he's just pulling it off. Like. And this is the kind of stories that I like to see. The fact that like all these like big stories and they're the actors who play these big characters are the ones who kind of get nominated for like the praise and the awards, and yet Davood is kind of doing these little family stories in the background, the ones that I'm most invested in as well. Like
the ones just at home.
And on Tuesday's episodes, when they showed those, like Tuesday and Monday this week were actually two really good episodes too.
They were. Tuesdays was Mondays was really, really good. Like the direction was great. I just hate the silly music. That's the only problem I had with that episode, because it was a real character-driven episode, and the second episode was really good too. But yeah, it's just the music.
Nice little package.
But there was no music on the second episode, so it was good.
But again, because of that, it seemed like it seemed like two completely different shows. Do you know what I mean? Like, because the Monday's episode was the way it was.
And it was even filmed different. Like, it was so different.
That's what I was going to say. I know you don't like the music, but the way it was filmed on Monday, I thought was visually actually very impressive.
Yeah, that's what I mean with like the direction and the shots they used, and they're using the sets differently.
Yeah, the angles
and the lighting
are
is different.
Yeah,
they're using fog machines.
They're using fog, but there's also there's items in the foreground that kind of you can. So it's almost like you're sat at the bar, like the Patrick and Denise scene. I felt like I was sat opposite the bar, looking at them talking. Yeah, it was really well done.
It was good.
So shoot EastEnders like Monday, but sound. Well, I say sound like on a Tuesday, but then don't let the sound department able to add random sound effects for when cardboard is thrown over a wall.
Yeah, it's just one little.
That's our advice.
But
much do better.
It was a good week, and there's lots going on, and there's like next week there's lots of new storylines starting.
Yes.
So hopefully it'll be a bit more interesting now. I mean, it's not been that bad. The trouble is it's been split in half over a month.
This is the problem, and they're having to stretch stories. I do suspect strongly that they are deliberately cutting stories so that perhaps they're able to eke out maybe another 2 or 3 episodes as they're going along. I do, and I don't know if you've noticed, but have you noticed also the episodes seem shorter as well? They seem
a few
cut
things
down.
missing, isn't there? I think.
Well, lengthwise, I mean, like instead of them being 27 minutes, which they normally are, I've noticed on a couple they've been about 24. So I think they're kind of pinching little bits and pieces here and there, so they're able to make another 2 episodes, just so they can just stretch it out a little bit longer because the filming schedule going to be a bit more tougher.
Right. So yeah, that's the week rounded up. So we're going to go on to everyone's comments and answers to questions and all sorts next.
You know me, I ain't one to gossip.
Yes, it's the time of the show where we just read out some of your comments you sent to us on our social media. All the details will be at the end of the show, so stay tuned to the very end so you can find out how you get in touch with us. Had a few comments this week, some of them relating to me being on Channel 5 News. Did I mention I'm being on Channel 5 News this week?
haven't on this actually yet, no.
You were. First little plug. Basically, I talked about whether EastEnders was going to mention lockdown or the coronavirus when they start to refilm again. And I actually put the question out to everyone on our social media too. And a few people did get in touch, so I thought read some of them out. At Looney Laura said, even when they don't do much in the way of referencing the real world, it's still always very strange to me. Karen talking about Boris in the fridge, for instance, was very weird.
They're going to have to at least mention it.
It has to be mentioned.
Yeah, they can't not.
You know, the fact that perhaps also some of the characters will still be self-isolating or staying at home.
Plus, we don't know, like in like 3 months' time, we don't know what the new normal sort of thing is. So they're going to have to incorporate it because it is set in the real world, because they insert topical things in it.
Oh, no, I agree with you entirely. At Lizzie Bennett 21 says they can't include royal weddings, babies and VE Day and the Olympics and other worldly events and not refer to this too.
Exactly.
That's exactly it. And Mr. Mouth 1117 says it's too important an event in history to just gloss over it and pretend it never happened. I mean, that's another point, isn't it? I mean, EastEnders is in some ways a document of history, if you think about it.
It is.
When we're watching the classic episodes, there's bits in it where it's pop up and they mention in the, you know, that's happened in news and so forth. And I always say to you, I was like, oh my goodness, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. That's why it's so good about like soaps, like things that have been on for 30 years. Like you can go back to 85 and you can see like the type of language they used to use back then, the fashion, the music, the you know, people going through recessions, like that. It's like a little catalogue of this is what our country was and this type of time. So they have to reference it. They have to.
I know it's a soap, and I know it's forged into it's a fictitious story, but at the same time, as you say, there's things that are happening in the world of EastEnders that can't be faked and ignored. And this is probably one of them.
Plus, they can use it as an opportunity to create storylines from it.
Let us know what storylines you'd like to see them create from from COVID-19. That'd be fun to hear, actually, some of your stories out there. So we've also had you getting in touch with us about this week's EastEnders episodes too. Hugh Thomas on our Facebook group said, "What stunning episodes, best in a long time. If good drama is about those one-to-one encounters and tension, building up storylines to those moments of the grip and beautiful montages to crown it all, Whitney has told us all about those men and we can all see where that's going. Brilliant stuff." So yeah,
high praise.
High praise indeed. Melissa Cox on our Facebook group said, "When Chantelle said, 'I'm a tailor,' it was a sign that she won't be with Atkins for very long."
It's like the most fiery we've ever seen Chantelle, really. Like
she's
never
rolled
been
up.
really a tailor before, has she?
No. Melissa also says, "Great chemistry in the scene between Phil and Linda's two-hander. Should have the option to mute that awful tinkly piano music though."
Good. No one likes it. Just get rid of it.
Can I just quickly put my 2 cents in about the music? Because we all know that you don't like it. When done properly, as I've mentioned before, Boat Week, when Whitney was admitting her crime to the police, it works nicely.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. It's when Leo knocks on the door and you hear a and they focus on Whitney's face.
I think but also I think you're obsessive a little bit on the whole warehouse scene when Martin and Keanu had that.
Yeah, that was
they
stupid.
Get going boom, boom.
The time when Linda cleaned up bottles around the house with music was stupid.
Although that was a proper montage though. They kept cutting from one bit to the next.
It was just awful. When they use it every now and then, like once every 8 months, it's good. But they don't. They use it every episode. So I don't like it.
No.
Well,
no.
Recently it has been.
I think that if they used it more subtly more often, you wouldn't notice it as much.
I would notice it.
Yeah, but it's because they use it as a one-off every 2-3 weeks, if that. That it's notable.
No. They don't want to get used to it because then it will be there forever. They just need to get rid of it. Can it? Just bring back Julia's theme instead.
Yeah, that's long missing too. When is anyone ever going to get
Julia's
it
now,
theme?
You get piano instead. That's the new...
Yeah, but they couldn't have done Julia's theme after 5 minutes of the episode opening. And that's the end.
They could.
Well, yeah, but then they would have had to re-edit how Isaac found out. But then it wouldn't have suited Julia's theme that moment.
Anyway, they don't use... That's what I'm saying. They don't use Julia's theme
I agree with you
anymore.
on that. They need to use that more often.
Yeah, they don't. They use incidental music instead. Like the end of Boat Week could have been Julie's theme, but they used piano.
This is what's lacking in the Oates and Sen era. No Julia's theme. One last comment then on our Twitter, @RenaLatinaG. "I would love Mitch to work it out between Chantelle and Gray, and also her mum because she worships Gray. It's so difficult to watch." Yeah. I mean...
Got that, Mitch.
We all had. Well, we all thought Mitch was going to get the Vic. I mean, the most sense would be that her parents were the ones who found out first, but I would because I'm not on board with Mitch, I would rather that it was found out by someone else first, and I'm not actually okay with Kheerat finding out and being like kind of like a guardian,
and Ash to maybe tell him. Maybe he'll mention it to Ash that she was about to say something, and Ash could say, "I shouldn't say this, but you're my brother."
What I'll do is I'll let everyone know all about how you can get in touch with us. So there were more comments, but there's no time then.
No.
If you want to get in touch with us, you can get in touch with us on Twitter and Instagram, just using the handle @Walford Weekly. You can also get in touch with us on our Facebook group. Just search Walford Weekly Podcast and then click to join. It's a really great community, and we have lots of fun chats. And so I really strongly recommend you all come and join in. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to rate us 5 stars if you enjoy the show, and also leave a comment. It helps us get found by lots of new listeners too, so it really encourages just people to find us too. But you can also find us on Podbean, on Spotify, or any of your favourite podcast apps as well. Don't forget to subscribe. If you found us on YouTube, ring the bell as well. And don't forget to vote on our awards, bit.ly/WalfordVote20.
Lovely. Is that all?
That's everything, other than to say everyone stay safe, take care of one another, and we'll see you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, we'll see you soon.